Welcome to my channel Limelight Leaks. Please share and subscribe and hit the bell icon for new updates. Don Yenko never walked when he could drive, and he never just drove. He took off like a rocket. He was born in 1927 into a family thought owned a Chevrolet car dealership in Pennsylvania. Don wasn't interested in sales talks or sitting in office chairs. He was a man who loved to move, a builder, a racer, apolot, a problem solver who only worked at full speed. He could fix an engine with his eyes closed and fly a plana through thick fog without being scared. By that time, most men got comfortable with their jobs. Don was already changing everything. When he was 30, he'd already flown P-51 fighter planes in their force and raced in SEC road races with special Corvettes he'd built himself. Don Yenko, cars and planes weren't just tools, they were freedom. Store how you get away from gravity, whether the railkind or the kind that came with rule-sound paperwork. While others followed the instruction book, Don wrote his own. Dealership in Canonsburg, Pennsylvania, wasn't just a place to buy Chevrolets. It was a launching pad. Inside that showroom, he built monsters, super powerful Camaros, Novas, and chevelles that made factory engineers word. And in the sky, it was the same story. Yenko wasn't just a licensed pilot. He was obsessed, careful, calm when things got crazy. He flew for business, for fun, for quiet time alone. Some say he flew to think. Others say he flew just to feel alive. So when Don Yenko took off from Charleston, West Virginia on March 5, 1987, it was just another trip, just another flight home. The weather was nice. His Cessna 210 was ready to go. His flight plan was normal, but by that night, something had gone terribly wrong. His anthe-man who lived to break limits had sappered. March 5, 1987. Don Yenko, now 59 years old, was no stranger to flying. That afternoon, he took off from Charleston, West Virginia, flying his Cessna 210 twin-engine airplane. He was going to Youngstown, Ohio, a trip he'd met him at times before. It wasn't a bad weather day. Weather reports showed clear skies, light winds, and you could see far. Yenko filed his flight plan, checked in like always, and took off without any problems. With him was a passenger, who was later found out to be a business friend. There was no worry, no unusual repair problems reported, no warning signs, nor air. This was normal, expected, safe. But something happened in that short piece of sky between Charleston, Ohio. Something that no radar, its control tower, or person watching ever fully understood, because Don Yenko never landed. Its hours went by. Radios stayed quiet. A control tower get a call. No signal was picked up. When Yenko failed to check in and missed his landing time completely, search and rescue teams were sent out. What they found would break the hearts of muscle car lovers everywhere. The airplane had crashed hard in Thierland, just outside Charleston. The wreckage was found in pieces, spread across a wooded hill. Both Yenko and his passenger died when they hit the ground. There were no survivors. But heaven, as news came out about the tragedy, one-word details stood out. Obscure silence. No emergency call, no final words, no radio contact, just sudden disappearance. Okay? And when people investigating arrived, the questions were only starting. When rescue teams reached the crashed airplane, what they found was awful. The Cessna 210 had crashed nose first into a wooded hillside, leaving behind a twisted frame, torn-up aluminum, and a trail of offices that told a violent story, but not a complete one. Investigators saw the crash angle was steep and sudden. There was no sign of a gentle glide or emergency landing try, no slide marks, no pulling up, just a sharp divine death. There were no survivors. Don Yenko, pilot, builder, legend, was gone. So was his passenger. The wreckage told them how the plane ended, but not why Eth had fallen. Aviation experts started looking through the scene. The engines were partly whole. The propeller showed signs of spinning, which meant the airplane was running when it hit. But flight records showed no change from the planned route. And again, the biggest mystery stayed: no emergency call. Experienced pilots don't go quiet in a crisis. Yenko had thousands of offers in the sky, including combat flight training. The Cessna was equipped with a working radio, emergency beeper, and backup instruments, but none of it was used. That silence scared investigators, friends, and fans. It didn't match who Don Yenko was. He was ready, careful, trained. He didn't just disappear into the blue. So, if it wasn't a pilot mistake, what did happen? Was it a sudden heart attack, a terrible systems breakdown, or something even worser? Months after the crash, the NTSB National Transportation Safety Board put out its official report. The findings were unclear. Getting confused at boot position and possible mechanical failure were listed as likely causes. They believed Yenko may have lost control while flying, either from wrong readings or a quick loss of knowing where he was, causing him to go into a deadly dive without knowing it. But Evans' said explanation didn't feel right to Topopol, who knew him. Don Yenko wasn't a weekend pilot. He had military training, thousands of logged hours, and a reputation for double-checking every system before flight. He didn't take shortcuts. He didn't guess at weather patterns, and he certainly didn't panic under pressure. Even the report admitted no direct mechanical failure could be proven. The wreckage was to damage Ito, find a systems problem. The engines were running when they hit. The weather wasn't bad. There was nothing in the official records to explain why a man like Don Yenko would simply fall from the sky without making a sound. For many in the flying and car world, the official story raised more questions than it answered. Because legends like Don don't just crash. They fight, they react, they serve. But this time, he didn't. In the weeks after the crash, rumors spread like wildfire. The official report didn't give closure. The facts felt thin, and the silence-framed cockpit haunted people. Yenko wasn't just any pilot. He was disciplined, careful, and exact. So how does a man like that fall out off sky without saying a single word? Some say it had a sudden heart attack while flying too fast and terrible for him to react. Others pointed to the Cessna 210's repair history, talking of boot past cases of electrical problems and cabin pressure issues. Was there a hidden defect, a systems failure, thatched everything down? Then came the more dramatic theories, sabotage whispered, by those who believed Yenko's growing brand had made enemies. Was it possible someone messed with the airplane? It seemed unlikely, but the idea stuck, especially in groups where Yenko's name was more than a legacy. It was an empire. Others suggested carbon monoxide poisoning or a cracked exhaust leaking into the cabin. But again, nothing was proven, and the plane was too damaged. The evidence was unclear. No poison report ever confirmed it. The more time passed, the fewer answers came up. No theory could be proven. No cause could be nailed down. Questions, silence, and disbelief. Because this wasn't just a tragic accident. It was the loss of a jaunt with no warning, no goodbye, and no reason that made sense. And for that community he left behind, that mystery bem, a scar. When the news broke, it didn't hit like a headline. It hit like a crash. Don Yenko wasn't just named in the car world. He was a movement, a symbol of everything that car lovers admired: creativity, guts, and rebellion. He didn't follow trends. He set them. When GM said no, he said, "Watch this." And when he died, it felt like something had been ripped from the heart of American muscle cars. Tributes poured in across that country. Street racers, custom builders, restoration shops, and collectors hung up flags, held quick car meets, and lit up back roads in his memory. Some owners gathered their Yenko Camaros and lined them up in honor, a roaring tribute tough man who built them. And yet, there was a deeper pain. 'Cause for all his foam, Don wasn't just a legend. He was easy to reach. He talked to customers, attuned their engines. He showed up at traces. He shook hands, told jokes, and stayed humble. He wasn't a celebrity and a tower. He was a builder in the garage. People felt like they knew him, even if they didn't. And when he was gone, it left a hole no dyno sheet could fill. Because in a time growing more and more corporate, Don Yenko represent freedom, not just on the track, but in the soul. And now that freedom was silent. After the crash, Yenko's still ship. And Performance Shop in Canonsburg sat in scary silence, once filled with the sound of torque wrenches, dyno pulls, and big block thunder. The building became a shrine, Overnight, employees stood shocked. Family and staff tried to make sense of what came next. Inside, Don had left unfinished projects, including what many believe was the blueprint for his next chapter. Whispers of a new Yenko Modelbogen spreading. Some said it was an updated turbocharged Camaro for the 1980s. Others claimed it was a full-blown custom car line, a modern comeback of the COPO spirit under his own brand. There were notes, parts, even pre-production orders rumored to have been written. But with Don gone, the vision was gone, too. The paperwork never showed up publicly. The prototypes, if they existed, disappeared into collector stories. Yenko was always changing, never happy to live off his 60s glory. He knew the muscle era was changing, and he wanted in. He wanted to lead it again. But when Thought Cessna hit the ground, the next great American muscle chapter died with him. His cars lived on, but his plans, the secret blueprints, the next revolution, remained trapped in Thacker, unfinished, undriven, unseen. Don Yenko wasn't just a car guy. He was a one-man rebellion, in a world run by committees and being careful Yenko. Built with guts. He found the cracks in the system and drove through them. When GM tried to weaken performance with policies, he found the COPO loophole. When the factory said no, he built it anyway. And when others played it safe, Yenko doubled down on speed. That's why his death didn't just sting. It shook something loose in Necker world, 'cause it reminded people that even legends can disappear. Even the unbeatable can vanish without warning. It wasn't just a man who died. It was a philosophy, a way of building a fearless blue-collar defiance that said, "We don't need permission." Yenko isn't flashy. He didn't beg for press. He didn't sit on panels or live in nostalgia. He worked, he tuned, he tested. He delivered cars that roared louder than his name. And yet, that name still managed to echo across generations. Losing him meant losing one of the last real rebels. Someone who proved that too didn't need a factory to make history. You just needed courage, a tool set, and a 427 big block. To this day, when people hear Yenko, they don't think dealership. They think danger, precision, and power without saying sorry. And that's why it still hurts. Kazu didn't just lose a builder. We lost a blueprint. More than 35 years later, the mystery of Don Yenko's final flight still hangs around. Its flying fans, historians, and fans have tried to piece out each other what happened, but there's still no final answer. Was it pilot terror? Some say yes, but it doesn't match his discipline or record. Why is it a medical problem? Maybe. But no poison or autopsy findings were ever publicly released. Was it mechanical failure? The wreckage suggested the engine was still running. So, if there was a breakdown, it had to be sudden and terrible. Some people who make theories even suggest more crazy ideas, sabotage, foul play, or conspiracy. It's the kind of off-guessing that follows any powerful person who dies without explanation. But there's no proof, just shadows. And maybe that's what hurts the most. There's no closure. For a man whom Amadeus named by finishing things, by delivering the car you didn't think was possible, his own story ended unfinished. No goodbye, no warning, just sky, silence, and emptiness. We're left with echoes, a logbook with a final uncompleted entry, and a question no one can answer. What really happened in that cockpit, and why couldn't he outrun it? Don Yenko's story didn't end in the wreckage, lifted off. Because legends don't die with them on. They live in the machines. Binthoro of an idling big block, and Thesmol of burned rubber, and the silence bear, a green light drops. Every serving Yenko, Camaro, Nova, and Chevelle is a rolling monument, remainder of what one man can build when it decides not to wait for permission. Yenko didn't invent performance, he perfected rebellion. His death might have silenced his voice, but it only made his legacy louder. Car collectors speak his name with respect, research study his builds. And car lovers still hunt down the VIN numbers and badges like buried treasure. Why? Because owning a Yenko isn't just owning a car. It's owning a chapter of American muscle car assistance. Don Yenko didn't stall out. He didn't fade away. He left Earth. Doing what he lived in control of a machine Hetros did, though he never came back, he's still flying. In every burnout, every red line, every whispered Yenko cruise, A car show parking lot. The man is gone. But the myth, it's still video pan full. Throttle, pointed straight at horizon.